They said I was there to cause a scene. Turns out, I was there to end one. At 6:11 p.m., I learned the sound a rib makes when it meets solid oak and the sound my mother makes when she decides I don't exist. The champagne flute shattered against my hip. But that wasn't what broke me. It was the laughter that followed, spreading through that living room like wildfire, confirming what I'd always suspected: I was never family, just a Rhodes problem in their Langford legacy. If you think getting shoved into a table was the worst part, wait until you see what signed paperwork and a neighbor's doorbell camera can do to a perfect family brand. My name is Madeline Rhodes. Maddie to anyone who actually knows me, though that list has gotten shorter over the years. At 33, I'd built a decent life as a risk and ethics specialist at Everbright Capital in Boulder, the kind of job where I spent my days making sure other people's money stayed clean. Ironic, considering I couldn't keep my own family from getting dirty. The invitation arrived on a Tuesday, thick cream cardstock with gold embossing that probably cost more than my weekly groceries. Family party, Langford Legacy Night, it proclaimed in swooping calligraphy. The envelope was addressed to Ms. M. Rhodes, not daughter, not Maddie, just a formal acknowledgement that I existed somewhere on the periphery of their perfect world. I called my mother that evening, watching the Colorado sunset paint the Flatirons orange through my apartment window. Evelyn Porter Langford answered on the fourth ring, her voice carrying that practiced warmth she'd perfected since marrying Victor 5 years ago. "About the party," I started. "Oh, Maddie. Yes. Well, everything's already arranged. The caterer, the photographer. Victor's handled it all beautifully." She paused, and I could hear ice clinking in whatever she was drinking. "You are coming, aren't you?" The question hung there, weighted with years of similar invitations that felt more like summons to prove I could play the part of the grateful daughter who didn't mind being erased one family photo at a time. "I'll be there," I said. "Wonderful. Semi-formal dress code. Starts at 6. She hung up before I could respond, before I could ask if I should bring anything, before I could pretend we were still the kind of mother and daughter who discussed these things. I spent the next 3 days perfecting my grandmother's peach cobbler recipe, the one she'd taught me before the cancer took her, back when family meant something different, back when my father was alive and our name Rhodes stood for something more than a problem to be managed. The silver bracelet he'd given me for my 16th birthday caught the kitchen light as I worked, its small compass charm still pointing true north even when everything else had lost direction. The drive to what used to be home took 45 minutes through Saturday evening traffic. I passed the elementary school where Mom had walked me to class every morning, the park where Dad taught me to throw a curveball, the church where we'd held his funeral 12 years ago. Each landmark felt like a breadcrumb trail leading backward to a life that no longer existed. The house looked different, even from the street. The modest 2-story colonial my father had painted himself every third summer now wore professional landscaping like expensive jewelry. A new mailbox stood at the curb, the Langfords scripted in gold leaf across its side. No mention of Rhodes, though legally, half this house still carried my father's name and mine. I parked behind a silver Mercedes I didn't recognize, probably belonging to one of Victor's business associates. The familiar smell of home lemon wood polish and my mother's lavender sachets had been replaced by something aggressively expensive, like a department store perfume counter had exploded in the foyer. My peach cobbler waited in its carrier, still warm, a peace offering to a war I didn't remember starting. Through the living room window, I could see them already assembled: Victor in his trademark navy blazer, my mother in a dress I'd never seen before, and Victor's 3 children, Jenna, Cole, and Ryan, all wearing matching burgundy accessories like they'd coordinated their rebellion against subtlety. I stood on the porch of the house where I'd grown up, holding my grandmother's cobbler and wearing my father's bracelet, and knocked on my own front door like the stranger they'd already decided I was. The door opened, and Victor's smile gleamed like a warranty about to expire. "Madison," he said, getting my name wrong on purpose. "Right on time." Behind him, my mother stood perfectly still, her hand resting on Jenna's shoulder like she was anchoring herself to her new family. The living room had been rearranged again. My father's reading chair nowhere to be seen. The family photos from before strategically absent from their usual places on the mantel. "It's Madeline," I corrected, stepping inside. "Or Maddie?" "Of course," Victor said, already turning away. "Jenna will show you where to put your dish." Nobody touched the peach cobbler. It sat on the kitchen counter like evidence of a crime no one wanted to acknowledge, trying too hard, caring too much, remembering things better left forgotten. Jenna had wrinkled her nose at it, muttering something about carbs before returning to the living room with a tray of Victor's preferred canapés. "Family photo time," Jenna announced at 6:05, producing a box of matching accessories from behind the couch like a magician revealing a particularly mediocre trick. Langford Legacy was printed on burgundy koozies, pins, and pocket squares. Everyone received their designated prop with practiced enthusiasm. Cole pinned his to his collar. Ryan adjusted his pocket square 3 times until Victor nodded approval. My mother accepted her pin like communion, fastening it above her heart. Jenna's hand hovered over the box when she reached me, then pulled back. "Oh, sorry. We only made enough for family." The words landed exactly as intended. I watched my mother's face remain perfectly still, her smile fixed like she'd had it surgically attached. "Maddie can be our photographer," Victor suggested, already holding out his phone. Not asking. Commanding. The device felt heavy in my hands, its leather case still warm from his pocket. "We want one by the fireplace. The lighting's better there." They arranged themselves with rehearsed precision, Victor center. My mother tucked against his side. The 3 children fanned out like a magazine spread for successful blended families. Above the mantel where my parents' wedding photo once lived, a new portrait dominated the wall. The Langfords at some resort, all in white linen, all smiling those same warranty smiles. "Make sure you get the whole fireplace," Victor instructed. The stonework was just refinished. I raised the phone, framing their perfect tableau. Through the screen, they looked like a stock photo for happiness, the kind you'd find if you searched "successful American family" on a corporate website. My mother's hand rested on Ryan's shoulder the same way she'd once steadied me for school photos. The compass charm on my bracelet caught the light, throwing a small reflection across the screen, a tiny rebellion the camera wouldn't catch. "Take several," Jenna demanded. "I need options for Instagram." I took 17 photos while they adjusted microscopic details, a hair out of place, a button catching too much light, Cole's smile not quite reaching the acceptable wattage. With each click, I felt myself disappearing more, becoming just a function, a service, a thing that held cameras and baked unwanted desserts. At 6:09, I set Victor's phone on the coffee table. I should go. Already? My mother's voice carried a note of relief dressed as disappointment. "Early meeting tomorrow," I lied, moving toward the door. Cole stepped into my path, all 22 years of entitled bulk blocking the exit. "Dad's not done with photos." "Victor's not my dad," I said quietly. The room shifted. That particular silence that precedes family violence, the emotional kind that doesn't leave bruises anyone can see. Victor approached with that same gleaming smile, my mother trailing beside him like a shadow that had learned to walk. "You know, Madison." "Madeline." "Your presence here has always been complicated." He stood too close, cologne aggressive as a threat. "Some people understand family, others just orbit around it, hoping to matter." My mother's eyes fixed on a point just past my shoulder. Jenna had her phone out, already recording. "The thing is," Victor continued, his voice dropping to that register men use when they want you to know they're being generous by not raising it, "you're a Rhodes problem, not a Langford memory. And tonight is about legacy. Our legacy." I tried to step around them, toward the dining room, finding another exit. The buffet table blocked the path laden with crystal and silver that probably cost more than my father had made in a year. Victor's hand landed on my shoulder, heavy as judgment. My mother's elbow connected with my ribs from the other side, and for a moment I thought it might have been accidental, might have been her reaching for me. Then they both pushed. The table edge caught me just below the ribs, driving the air from my lungs. Crystal shattered against my hip as I went down, champagne spreading across the hardwood my father had installed himself one summer. Pain bloomed along my side where the table corner had won its argument with my body. "This is epic!" Jenna's laughter cut through the ringing in my ears. She had her phone up, portrait mode, already editing for maximum engagement. The room erupted in that particular kind of laughter that needs permission to exist, cruel and grateful for the opportunity. At 6:11 p.m., I learned what it sounds like when your mother chooses a side, and it isn't yours. The urgent care clinic smelled like industrial disinfectant and other people's problems. The doctor, a tired woman who'd probably seen worse but acted like she hadn't, confirmed soft tissue damage and bruised ribs, recommending x-rays I couldn't afford and rest I couldn't take. She didn't ask how a professional woman ended up with champagne glass embedded in her hip on a Saturday night. Boulder had enough domestic situations that mine didn't warrant special attention. I sat in my car afterward, holding the discharge papers and prescription I wouldn't fill, and didn't call 911. Instead, I scrolled through my contacts until I found Alec Brewer, a law school friend who'd once helped me understand property law over beer and nachos. Now he worked at Brewer and Parks, handling the kind of cases that made the news when rich people discovered their money had feelings. Maddie. He answered on the second ring, even though it was past 9 p.m. "Everything okay? I need to know about property records. Specifically, what happens when ownership documents go missing." The pause told me he was switching from friend mode to lawyer mode. How missing are we talking? Missing like someone might have deliberately prevented them from being recorded. "I can be at my office in 20 minutes. The Brewer and Parks conference room had the kind of aggressive air conditioning that made you grateful for bad coffee. Alec had pulled up the county records database on his laptop, his fingers flying across the keyboard while I pressed ice against my ribs and tried not to think about the sound my mother's silence had made. "Your father's will was clear," he said, pulling up the probate documents. "The house went to your mother and you as joint tenants with rights of survivorship. 50-50. That was recorded 12 years ago." More typing. "Then 5 years ago, right after she married Victor. There's a transfer. She tried to add him to the deed. Tried. There's a covenant here, filed a week later. It blocks any additional names without both original owners' signatures." He turned the screen toward me. "You'd have to sign off on adding Victor." "Did you?" "I never signed anything." Alec's expression shifted. "There's something else." "A quitclaim deed dated a week before the covenant was filed. It shows you signing over your interest to your mother." My ribs protested as I leaned forward. "That's impossible." "It gets stranger." He pulled up another screen. "The quitclaim was notarized, signed. Everything looks legitimate, but it was never recorded. It exists in the system as a document that was prepared but never officially filed." "How does that happen?" "It doesn't. Not accidentally." He opened another window, cross-referencing dates. "Look at this. There's an internal email chain between Victor's paralegal and the county recording office. They requested to withdraw the quitclaim due to a form error, but there's no resubmission, no correction, just nothing." The ice pack had gone warm in my hand. I set it aside and touched my father's bracelet, feeling the small compass spin. "So legally, I still own half the house. Legally, you own half the house. And someone went to significant effort to make it look like you didn't, without actually completing the fraud." Alec pulled up another document. "The notary who signed this, she lost her license 3 years ago for document irregularities. Guess whose business she worked for exclusively? Langford RV and Marine." "Bingo." He leaned back, lawyer face fully engaged now. "Maddie, this isn't just family drama. This is attempted fraud, possibly conspiracy. The fact that they pushed you tonight caused injury. That's assault. With the property issue, It becomes a pattern of attempting to force you out through illegal means. I thought about my mother's hand on Ryan's shoulder, the way she'd stood perfectly still while Victor reminded me I was a Rhodes problem. What would you need to make this stick? Evidence of the assault, for starters. Witnesses would help, though family members rarely cooperate. Any documentation of them trying to exclude you from the property or coerce you into signing anything. Financial records showing suspicious transfers. He studied my face. This could get ugly. They have money for lawyers. I work in risk and ethics, I said quietly. I know how to document patterns, how to build a case from breadcrumbs and make sure every piece is admissible. Alec nodded slowly. Then you know this isn't about revenge. It's about establishing a pattern of behavior that proves intent. I touched my side where the bruises were already blooming into evidence. My father used to say ownership isn't about paper, it's about who's willing to fight for what's theirs. Smart man. Alec closed his laptop. Start documenting everything. Every interaction, every threat, every attempt to exclude you. And Maddie, that covenant protecting your ownership. It might be the only reason they haven't tried something worse. I stood to leave, then turned back. The quitclaim that was never filed, that means they've had a forged document with my signature sitting around for 5 years. Sitting around, waiting for the right moment to suddenly discover it and file it properly. Alec's expression was grim. You need to move fast. If they realize you're onto them, that document could mysteriously appear in the official record tomorrow. I thought about Victor's smile, Jenna's phone already editing for maximum engagement, my mother choosing her new family over her old one. They'd made it clear I was a Rhodes problem. Time to show them what kind of problems the Rhodes family could create. The McRaes lived directly across from my childhood home, their Ring doorbell camera angled perfectly to catch the front porch and, through the bay window, most of the living room. Jim McRae, retired Boulder PD, answered his door at 7:30 a.m. Sunday morning, already dressed and holding coffee like he'd been expecting me. Maddie Rhodes, he said. Not a question. Heard there was quite a party last night. You heard. Saw. Camera picks up audio, too, when someone's yelling loud enough. He stepped aside. Come on. Barbara's making breakfast. Their kitchen smelled like bacon and sympathy. Barbara McRae set a plate in front of me without asking. The kind of mothering that didn't need words. Jim opened his laptop, pulling up his security system with the efficiency of someone who'd testified in court more than once. We started keeping logs, he said, scrolling through files. Your mother's new family has interesting habits. The timestamp read 6:11 p.m. The video showed the bay window clearly, Victor's hand on my shoulder, my mother's elbow motion, the synchronized push. The audio caught the glass breaking, and then, crystal clear, Jenna's voice. This is epic. That's assault, Jim said quietly. In my professional opinion. Barbara set down a notebook, handwritten logs dating back 2 years. The daughter, Jenna, and the middle boy, Cole. They drive home intoxicated at least twice a week. I've called it in, but somehow patrol never manages to catch them. She flipped pages. Every Tuesday and Thursday, between midnight and 2 a.m. Different cars sometimes, but always the same pattern. Swerving onto lawns, music loud enough to wake the dead. Victor's got friends at the department, Jim added. But cameras don't lie. I've got 14 separate incidents recorded, license plates, times, everything. I thought about the risk and ethics protocols I enforced at work documentation chains, evidence integrity, pattern establishment. Would you be willing to share those files, already made copies? Jim handed me a flash drive. There's more. Your mother signs for packages she never opens, commercial deliveries to a residential address. Barbara tracked the shipping companies. RV parts, Barbara said. Marine equipment, all for Langford's business, all delivered here to avoid commercial shipping fees and taxes. My ribs ached as I leaned forward. You've been watching them. We've been watching out for you, Barbara corrected. Your father helped Jim build our deck. Good people don't forget good people. Jim pulled up another file. You should hire someone professional, but start here. Langford RV and Marine has interesting sales patterns. Same 4 customers buying and returning high-value items. Always cash transactions just under federal reporting limits. How do you know this? Retirement's boring. I do consulting for fraud investigations. He smiled grimly. Your stepfather's business trips. They coincide with cash deposits at 6 different banks, all just under $10,000. Classic structuring. I took notes, building the pattern in my head. This is enough for state tax authorities. It's enough for federal if you play it right. Jim closed the laptop. But you need someone who specializes in financial investigation. I know someone. Monique Vega. Used to be forensic accounting for the FBI. She freelances now. Barbara touched my hand gently. Honey, we saw you grow up in that house. Watched your daddy teach you to ride a bike in that driveway. What they're doing isn't right. I thought about the covenant protecting my ownership, the forged quitclaim waiting to surface, the way my mother had stood silent while Victor declared me a roads problem. I need everything documented, every piece of evidence admissible. Like building a RICO case, Jim said approvingly. Start with the assault, establish the pattern of harassment, then layer in the financial crimes. Makes it harder for them to claim any single incident was isolated. He pulled out his phone, texted me a contact. Monique Vega. Tell her I sent you. She'll find things in those books that'll make Victor wish he'd stuck to simple assault. I stood to leave, then turned back. The packages my mother signs for, every signature documented, Barbara said. She's listed as compliance officer on the business registration. Makes her legally liable for any irregularities. The weight of that settled in my chest next to the bruises. My mother hadn't just chosen Victor's family over me. She'd chosen to sign her name to his crimes. Jim walked me to the door. Maddie, when you move on this, and I know you will move fast and all at once, cockroaches scatter when you turn on one light. Turn them all on simultaneously. Outside, I could see my childhood home across the street. The curtains were drawn, but Jenna's car was in the driveway, parked crooked like always. The hood was still warm enough to shimmer in the morning sun, even though it was barely 8 Mom. I touched the flash drive in my pocket, then called Monique Vega. She answered on the first ring. Jim McCrae said you'd call, she said without preamble. Langford RV and Marine. I've been waiting 3 years for someone with standing to challenge their books. How fast can you get me financial authorization? How fast can you find federal violations? Honey, give me 24 hours and legitimate access. I'll find enough to make the IRS weep with joy. I looked at my childhood home one more time. They'd made it clear I wasn't family. Time to show them what a roads problem really looked like. Alec filed the papers at 8 a.m. Monday morning, timing it perfectly with the court clerk's shift change when everything moved faster and questions came slower. By 9:15, Victor Langford would discover that his perfect Monday was about to become a legal nightmare. Emergency injunction for asset preservation, Alec explained, sliding copies across his desk. Based on the attempted fraudulent transfer and evidence of ongoing conversion, the house is frozen, no sales, no transfers, no modifications without court approval. What about the assault? Civil complaint filed simultaneously, intentional infliction of emotional distress, assault, battery, and conspiracy to commit fraud. I've included Jenna as a defendant for recording and disseminating the assault. He pulled up another document. The beauty is the property fraud elevates everything. This isn't just family drama anymore, it's a pattern of criminal conduct designed to deprive you of your legal rights. Monique Vega called while we were reviewing the filings. You need to see this. Can you meet me at my office in 20? Her office occupied the 3rd floor of a building that looked abandoned from outside but hummed with serious business inside. She had 3 monitors displaying spreadsheets that made my eyes water just glancing at them. Langford RV and Marine is a washing machine, she said without preamble. Same 4 customers, like Jim said, but look deeper. She highlighted transactions. Shell companies, all registered in Nevada. The addresses vacant lots. The phone numbers burner phones purchased at the same store. Sequential serial numbers. Money laundering. Amateur hour money laundering. Victor's not even good at it. She pulled up tax records. He's been reporting different numbers to state versus federal. Your mother signed as compliance officer on every filing. If she claims ignorance, she's admitting gross negligence. If she admits knowledge, it's conspiracy. Send it to state tax authorities. Already prepared the report. But here's the thing. Monique pointed to a timeline. These discrepancies started exactly 1 month after your mother married Victor, like he was waiting to have a fall guy with signing authority. My phone buzzed. Alec texting, "Victor got served. Expect fireworks." The fireworks came at 2:47 p.m., in the form of Jenna blowing up my phone with texts that escalated from threats to barely coherent rage. I screenshot every one, forwarding them to Alec. Dead to this family. Mom should have aborted we'll bury you in court, you poor bitch. Daddy says are gonna pay for this. Then came the voicemail from Victor, his polished voice cracking at the edges. You've made a serious mistake. Madison, we have resources you can't imagine. Drop this now, or I'll make sure you never work in finance again. I forwarded that too. Alec responded immediately. Threat of economic retaliation. Adding to the file. Also, filing cease and desist. All communication goes through lawyers now. By 4 p.m., Victor's lawyer expensive suit, cheaper morals, was in Alec's conference room. This is harassment. My client's stepdaughter is having some kind of breakdown. Alec slid the McCrae's video across the table. This is assault. Your client pushed a woman into furniture, causing documented injuries. Family dispute, misunderstanding, with property fraud as the motive. Alec added the covenant documentation. Your client attempted to steal a $500,000 asset through forged documents. The lawyer's face shifted. What are you looking for? Justice, I said from the doorway. Both men turned. Full accounting of all attempts to transfer my property. Restoration of all family items removed from the house. And compensation for assault and emotional distress. That's extortion. That's civil procedure, Alec corrected. Unless you'd prefer we forward our evidence to the DA. Assault, fraud, conspiracy. Those are criminal charges. Victor's lawyer stood. We'll respond through proper channels. After he left, Alec turned to me. They'll come back with an offer, probably try to buy you out. Make this go away. I don't want their money. I want the truth on record. My phone rang. Unknown number. Against better judgment. I answered. Don't hang up. My mother's voice, smaller than I'd ever heard it. Please. All communication goes through lawyers. I know. Victor doesn't know I'm calling. Maddie, you have to stop this. You don't understand what he's capable of. I understand he pushed me into a table while you watched. I didn't mean it wasn't supposed to. Mom, are you recording this? Silence. Then he told me to. I hung up, added another piece to the pattern. Even now, even afraid, she was still choosing him. Monique texted, State Tax Authority very interested. Audit notice being prepared. Federal criminal referral being discussed. I sat in my car outside Alec's office, touching my father's bracelet. The compass still pointed north, still knew which way was forward even when everything else spun chaos. My phone lit up with an email from Victor's lawyer. Cease and desist, demand for retraction, threat of defamation suit. Alec's response was already waiting in my inbox. Litigation hold notice served. All Langford RV and Marine records to be preserved. All personal devices subject to discovery. The first lights were turning on. Time to flip them all. The Riverside Diner sat halfway between Boulder and nowhere. The kind of place where coffee came black and conversations went unrecorded unless you announced otherwise. My mother was already there when I arrived, sitting in a back booth, wearing sunglasses indoors like a cliché of someone with something to hide. I'm recording this, I said, setting my phone on the table between us. Colorado is a one-party consent state, but I'm telling you anyway. She flinched. Maddie, please, can't we just talk? We are talking, with documentation. I ordered coffee from a waitress who looked too tired to care about our drama. You wanted to meet. Talk. The formica table between us was scarred with decades of other people's conversations, carved initials and coffee rings creating a map of old damage. My mother's hands wrapped around her mug like it might provide absolution. "I didn't know," she started. "About the property papers. Victor said it was just cleanup, making things cleaner for taxes. You signed them. I signed a lot of things. He handles the business. You're the compliance officer. Mom, legally, you handle the business." I pulled out Monique's preliminary report. "Did you know about the cash transactions, the fake customers, the structured deposits?" Her silence stretched between us like a confession. "You knew something," I said. Not a question. "I suspected. But Maddie, you don't understand what it was like after your father died. The bills, the loneliness. Victor offered security. He offered you a chance to erase me. That's not—" She stopped, started again. "You were always so independent, so much like your father. You didn't need me. I needed my mother. I needed the person who taught me to tie my shoes to not watch while her husband assaulted me." The waitress refilled our coffees, her eyes carefully averted. This wasn't the first hard conversation she'd served around. "It wasn't supposed to happen like that," my mother said. "The party. The photos, Victor said if we just made it clear you weren't part of the new family structure, you'd accept it, move on. By shoving me into furniture. That was Jenna had been drinking. She gets him worked up, calls you the remainder, says you're a reminder of my failure." Her voice dropped. "She's been pushing for months to file that quitclaim. Says once you're off the deed, we can sell, move somewhere fresh. The quitclaim is forged. I know." The admission sat between us like a live wire. I watched her face, searching for the mother who'd bandaged my scraped knees, who'd cried at my college graduation, who'd held my hand at my father's funeral. "Tell me the truth," I said. "All of it, on record. Help me understand how we got here." She pulled off her sunglasses, revealing eyes puffy from crying or drinking or both. 2 years ago, Victor's business started having problems. Not losses, but questions. From the state, from banks. He needed clean money to show legitimate income. Our house, it's worth enough to leverage for loans. But with your name on it. He couldn't touch it. He found someone who could make documents. Said it was just for backup, just in case. But then the questions got louder, and Jenna started saying you were the reason we couldn't be a real family, that your name on the deed was like keeping one foot in my old life. "So you chose?" "I chose survival. I chose not being alone." She reached across the table, but I pulled my hands back. "Maddie, if this goes forward, if the tax people dig deeper, Victor will make sure I take the fall. I'm the one who signed. I'm the compliance officer. Then cooperate. Tell the authorities the truth." "I can't. There are other things. Things that would hurt more than just me." I studied her face. This stranger wearing my mother's features. "He has something on you." "He has something on everyone. That's how he works." She pulled out an envelope, slid it across. "Don't open it here. It's everything I can give you without him knowing. Account numbers, passwords, a list of the real names behind the shell companies." "Why?" "Because you're still my daughter, even if I've been a terrible mother. And because your father would never forgive me if I let Victor destroy you completely." I took the envelope. "This doesn't fix what happened." "I know, but it might keep you safe. Victor's planning something for the charity gala next week, the Langford Legacy fundraiser. He's been making calls, talking about solving the Madison problem once and for all." "What kind of solution?" "The kind that involves lawyers and witnesses and public humiliation. He wants to announce that you've been harassing the family, that you're mentally unstable. Jenna's been editing that video from the party, making it look like you attacked them." I thought about the McRae's unedited footage, about Monique's financial evidence, about the pattern we'd been building piece by piece. "Let him try," I said. "Maddie, you don't understand. He owns judges. He owns cops. He owns the narrative. He doesn't own the truth, and he doesn't own me." I stood, leaving money for the coffee. "Make your choice, Mom. Keep enabling him or start making things right. but decide fast, because after that gala, there won't be any middle ground left. She grabbed my wrist as I passed, her grip desperate. I loved your father. I love you. But I'm not brave like you are. I looked down at her hand, at the wedding ring that had replaced my father's, at the manicured nails that had once braided my hair for school. Bravery is just fear that's been properly documented, I said, pulling free. And I've got excellent records. Monique called at 11 p.m. Tuesday night, her voice electric with discovery. Check your encrypted email. File name legacy sales q3.xlsx. You're going to want to sit down for this. The spreadsheet looked innocent enough until you understood what the patterns meant. VIN numbers appearing twice, 3 times, sometimes 4 times across different sales. Addresses that matched vacant lots. Google Maps confirmed didn't exist. Customer contact names that Monique had traced to burner phone purchases. All bought with cash at the same electronics store Victor visited every second Thursday. It's not just money laundering, she explained. It's inventory fraud. He's selling the same RVs multiple times on paper, collecting cash, then reversing the sales as customer cancellations. The cash disappears, but the inventory stays constant. How much? Conservative estimate $800,000 in phantom sales this quarter alone. Your mother's signature is on every verification. I thought about the envelope my mother had given me, still unopened in my safe. I need something more. Something that proves intent, not just negligence. Then you need someone on the inside talking. Monique paused. Your mom's not the only one who might be looking for an exit strategy. Wednesday afternoon. My mother texted from a number I didn't recognize. Jenna at Mill and Grain tonight, 9:30. She drinks and talks. Bring a wire. Alec arranged it through a PI he trusted, someone who knew how to make recordings that would hold up in court. The wire was smaller than I expected, fitting seamlessly under the collar of my jacket. My mother would wear one too, her own lawyer present to ensure whatever she gathered could be used to defend herself if Victor tried to throw her under the bus. The Mill and Grain was all exposed brick and Edison bulbs, the kind of place where $30 cocktails came with elaborate garnishes and a side of manufactured authenticity. Jenna held court at a high-top table, already 3 drinks in, judging by the volume of her laugh. My mother sat beside her, playing the supportive stepmother while her wire recorded everything. I positioned myself at the bar, close enough to observe but far enough to avoid detection. The audio feed came through an earbud that looked like a normal wireless headphone. The thing about Madison, Jenna's voice crackled through, is she never understood the game. Like that party pure theater. Dad needed her gone. I gave him the push. Literally. She laughed at her own wordplay. But the video, my mother prompted. Oh my God, the video is perfect. I edited out the push, kept her falling. She looks drunk, unstable. Already got 200K views on my Finsta. Ice clinked in her glass. Dad's showing it at the gala. Part of his whole concerned family dealing with a troubled relative presentation. Victor's always thinking ahead, my mother said carefully. Right like with the cash buyers. He calls them his special friends. They pay cash, we process the sales, then void them after the quarter closes. Books look great for loans. Inventory stays available for real buyers. Another drink ordered, another secret spilled. Mom, you're genius for signing everything. Perfect shield if the IRS comes knocking. My mother's silence was damning. Don't worry, Jenna continued, words slightly slurred. Dad's got a plan for Madison. That house once she's declared mentally incompetent harassment charges. The video. A few witnesses saying she's been unstable court gives you full control. We file the quitclaim, sell to one of Dad's developers. $3 million, easy. Witnesses, already lined up, Cole's fraternity brothers. They'll say she's been stalking the family, making threats, 500 each. They'll say whatever. My phone buzzed. Alec. Getting all this. It's gold. Jenna kept talking, each drink loosening more truth. The phantom customers were actually one person, someone named Torres who moved money for people who needed it cleaned. The boats they claimed to service never touched water. The RVs they sold kept appearing in inventory because they never actually left. The best part, Jenna leaned in conspiratorially. The charity gala dad's announcing a donation of $100,000 to mental health services. The irony, it's Madison's inheritance money, filtered through the business. He's using her own father's money to destroy her. I watched my mother's reflection in the bar mirror. Her face had gone pale, her hand trembling around her gin and tonic. "I should go," my mother said suddenly. "Victor will wonder where I am." "Let him wonder," Jenna replied. "You're with family, the real family, not the remainder." After they left, I sat at the bar with my laptop, compiling everything. The audio was clear, damning, perfect. Monique had texted 17 times with additional financial discoveries. Alec had prepared subpoenas. The state tax authority had officially opened an investigation. My phone rang. "Mom, I can't do this anymore," she whispered. "Thursday night. The gala. Victor's planning to have you arrested when you show up. Trespassing, harassment. He's got security ready to make a scene. Then I'll make a bigger one. Maddie, trust me. Mom, for once in 5 years, trust me more than you fear him." The line went quiet. "Then, your father would be proud of what you're becoming. He'd be disappointed in what you became." "I know," she said softly. "That's why I'm finally choosing a side." The Langford Legacy Gala transformed the RV showroom into something that pretended to be elegant white tablecloths over display models, champagne flutes reflecting off windshields, Boulder's elite pretending they cared about whatever charity Victor had chosen to legitimize his money. I walked in at 7:58 p.m., wearing a simple black dress and my father's compass bracelet, carrying an envelope that would end everything. Security moved toward me immediately, just as my mother had warned. But Alec was faster, stepping from behind a display Winnebago with 2 uniformed officers and a state tax investigator. "Ms. Rhodes is here as a witness," he announced loudly enough for the room to hear. "Any interference will be considered obstruction." Victor's face cycled through emotions like a slot machine looking for the right expression. He settled on his trademark smile, approaching with arms spread like we were old friends. "Madison, what a surprise." At 8:06, he took the microphone for his presentation. The massive screen behind him lit up with the Langford family photo, the one I'd been forced to take, standing outside their perfect circle. "Family," Victor began, his voice honeyed with false sincerity. "It's about legacy, about building something that lasts. Sometimes that means making hard choices about who belongs in that circle." The screen changed. The edited video began playing me falling into the table, glass breaking, carefully cropped to hide the push. "Some people," Victor continued, "struggle with mental health issues that make them dangerous to themselves and others." I stepped forward, my voice carrying clear across the showroom. "Show them the real video." Security, "Show them the part where you pushed me." I held up my phone, connected to the sound system Alec had quietly accessed. "Or I will." The unedited doorbell footage filled the screens, Victor's hand on my shoulder, my mother's elbow to my ribs, the synchronized shove. Then, crystal clear through the showroom speakers, Jenna's voice. "This is epic." The room stirred, phones emerging to record the reversal. But I wasn't done. 8:07 p.m. The screens changed again. Jenna's drunken confession from the mill and grain played for everyone. The phantom sales, the cash buyers, the plan to have me declared incompetent. Her voice echoed off RV windshields. Dad's using her inheritance money, filtered through the business. Victor lunged for the sound system, but the state investigators were already moving. "Mr. Langford, we have a warrant to search these premises and seize all financial records." Behind them, more officers entered. The FBI had accepted the federal referral after all. "This is entrapment," Victor shouted, his perfect composure finally cracking. "That recording is illegal." "Colorado is a one-party consent state," I said calmly, and my mother consented to her wire. Evelyn stepped out from behind a display boat, her own lawyer beside her. She looked smaller than I'd ever seen her, but for the first time in 5 years, she looked like my mother again. "I'm cooperating fully with the investigation," she announced. "I have records." "All of them!" Jenna tried to retreat toward the rear exit, but found it blocked by Boulder PD. Cole stood frozen by the champagne table, his phone still recording like muscle memory. The room full of Boulder's elite watched their golden family collapse in real time, their phones capturing every moment for tomorrow's social media feast. At 8:11 p.m., the handcuffs clicked onto Victor's wrists. The sound was sharp, final, perfect. The same time 6:11 reversed. Like karma had a sense of poetry. I walked to the podium he'd abandoned, setting my envelope down where his speech notes had been. Inside were copies of everything: the forged quitclaim, the financial records, the evidence of fraud going back 5 years. But on top was something else: the original deed to my father's house, with both our names still clear and legal. Tonight was supposed to be about legacy, I said to the room, to the phone's recording, to my mother standing with tears streaming down her face. "And it is. Just not the one you expected." Victor turned as they led him out, his eyes finding mine. No smile now, no practiced charm, just the naked truth of what he was: a small man who'd built an empire on other people's trust and found out too late that paper towers burn fastest. "You're right about one thing," I told him. "I am a Rhodes problem, and problems like me, we keep excellent records." The compass on my bracelet caught the light as I turned away, still pointing true north, toward something better than revenge, toward justice, toward home. My mother approached as the crowd dispersed, her hand tentative on my arm. "Maddie, later," I said. "After the lawyers, after the truth. Then we'll see what's left to rebuild." The showroom emptied except for investigators boxing evidence and Jenna sobbing over her phone, watching her carefully curated life collapse in real-time comments. I stood in the ruins of the Langford legacy, wearing my father's bracelet and my own hard-won strength. 8:23 p.m. I walked out into the Colorado night, leaving them to sort through the wreckage of their paper empire. The Rhodes problem had been solved, just not the way they'd planned. Thank you so much for listening to this story of family betrayal and ultimate justice. I'd love to know where you're listening from. Drop a comment below and let's connect. If this story resonated with you, please subscribe to the channel and share your thoughts about Maddie's journey. What would you have done in her situation? Your comments and support mean everything. Until next time, remember, sometimes the best revenge is simply the truth, properly documented.